Hello and welcome to Champ Works. Today we're going to take a look at this car. Stay with us. I've been promising a walk around, and today is the day we're going to do that. Of the car I affectionately refer to as the Mustang. We finally got her up on the rotisserie after having repaired the lower frame rails, front frame rails I should say. Give you a close-up here. This side was not that bad. The other side had many more problems, but I decided to do it in pairs only because this is a very key piece of the puzzle, especially when you consider the rotisserie has to ride on. It has to use the strength of this for the rotisserie. These are CJ Pony Parts panels that we had to drill out for the MIG welding spot welds. But we also repaired the frame as we did it. There was a patch underneath here where it had ballooned itself, and just, you know, the metal was delaminating. It was horrible. We did the same to the other side. Not only did it also have problems at the lower end of it, but this side in particular, the reason we decided to replace these in the first place was this one in particular, the welded on nut that is to hold the bumper mounts on was gone. Literally had rusted out. There's a hole in the outside of this frame panel. Shout out to CJ Pony Parts. The parts fit very well. I had to do a little bodywork finagle here, a little metal fab to get it to follow this curve correctly. But we also had a hole on the other side of it because the old mounts had a substructure that held the nuts for the bumper. Replaced that, and let me give you a close-up of that as well, because that turned out really well. We haven't finished it on the inside yet. All we were worried about was making it structurally sound. But here, let me zoom in on this for you. Right there. You can see that not only had it delaminated, but there was a rust hole as well. And we decided to repair that before we moved on. Now, while we're here, you can also see the lower edge of that inner fender apron. There we go. We've decided to replace both sides, fender aprons, and shock towers. You can actually see at the bottom. You can't see it on this one in particular. But we go back to this last apron, and you can see at the very bottom where it meets the frame, right there, that it is pretty far gone. We also have problems up and down the shock tower itself, as you can see where the old spot welds were. Not so much on that side. But that, coupled with an old repair that most Mustangs receive on the top of the fender aprons. These are very common rust areas. The aprons lay over on top of the shock tower. They tend to rust in both of these spots. And the body shop that we had to do it back in the day was called Indy Top and Body. They're no longer around. And they brazed everything. And I've said in the past that I think they've actually created more work for us than had they not done any body work at all. And I say that because it would probably be easier to just have repaired these rust holes rather than covering them with a piece of metal and then just brazing them, which, you know, that's what they did back in the day. And it wasn't a budget restoration in 1980, but it certainly wasn't, you know, as high dollar as they are today. Another reason we're replacing the shock towers is, let me show you on this. As you can see, we've got a big problem down here where it's rusted through on both sides. Looks pretty good over here, but rather than jack with that and all the problems we have here and up underneath the fender mount, we just decided to replace it. Here's a nice example of this fender, just this inner apron just being separated from the frame rail itself. It's going to be gone. So I'll show you soon the parts that we have to replace those. In fact, let me just show them to you now. I've got them all laid out behind me over my right shoulder. There's all 4 fender aprons and floor pans with firewall extensions. That's going to take care of all of those problems, and I'll show you the floorboards here in a moment. You'll notice, however, that the torque boxes, this is kind of encouraging. Once we got it back from the strip, and by the way, we had her stripped at a place called Pro Strip Indy, and shout out to them. Again, not sponsored, but they did a great job. And man, is it so nice having it to this stage, because it can be such a headache to wire wheel and sand and all that. Having it down to the bare metal is just like having a fresh canvas in order to make your painting. But what surprised us was, because the seat support rails, which we do have replacements for, you can see over my right shoulder there, right there. They're in horrible shape, and we're going to replace those. I'll get in more detail on those in a minute. But the torque boxes are relatively solid out front, which is rare for a Mustang. Cowls are good. The inner cowl, or the side cowl, is a little bit dented in here. This is an accident that happened before I actually owned the car. And if you haven't watched that video yet, or if we haven't produced it, haven't put it up there, I'll put a link to it if I can remember to give you a shot at that. Let's see, where else do we want to go? The core support on this, great shape, fantastic shape. There's nothing wrong with the core support, the front frame rail, the sport rails, the control arm sport rails. Those are all fantastic. Even the cross member, beneath the oil pan, that's in good shape as well. Again, on this torque box is in good shape out front. Now, it's not underneath, and I'll show you that in a moment too. The upper firewall, all the way through the upper firewall, and this is great. Now the lower cowl panel, we've got a little bit of work to do, because they always rust around the air intake. But again, here on the fender aprons, we've got the same thing happening. The whole idea behind this car, and again, I've mentioned this probably several times, is that we want to make sure that if someone were to ever want to put this back to stock, now this is a family car, so it's probably not going anywhere. But even if we ever wanted to put it back to factory stock, we can. So the idea is to make sure that we address every bit of metal damage on this car. Make sure that it's rust-proof in and out before any top coats go on. Now let's take a look at the door jam. Door jams, great shape. A little bit of issue on the passenger side, but as you can see here, they're in really good condition. I'll save the worst part for last, but they're just solid, all the way up and down. Tripod getting in the way. All the way up and down. Rocker panels in this car, rock solid. Pun intended. Here's the old lead line, which we won't deal too much with. Copyright strike. Look at that, you're actually getting a picture. Fun fact. This is my son's shop, and he decided to install a television in the shop. Where is it? There it is. Nice. I can't believe it's connecting to your Wi-Fi.
Well, it's on my phone. I couldn't get it to go to
Oh. All right, enough of the TV silliness. It is badass though to have a television in the shop. All right, let's get back to this. Now I want to show you the floorboards. You can see that right into the torque box. So that front panel of the torque box is done. But you can see what they did. Here's the original floor pan. They covered it with a piece of sheet metal, brazed it, more braze. You can see that the reason I've got seat pedestals is because we've got a lot of rot here. Here's another example of their fine work. Look at this bead they tried to pound in with obviously a body hammer. not very well done. More brazing. The rear seat looks good. Pay no attention to that hole right there. That was actually a it was either a fuel line mount or a brake line mount that decided to deteriorate. That's an easy fix. Seatbelt mounts are in fantastic shape. The upper seat pans are good. The rear seat pans, I should say, underneath the rear seats. But all of this is going to be replaced with those guys out there. All right, here's the first of the rust repair done by that shop back in the day. And you can see that not only is it Swiss cheese again here, but we've got a braze panel right over it. They tried to pull it out a little bit. They didn't do that very well. These are actually for the Mach 1 panel. Ooh, those rockers, man. Those rockers are straight and solid. This is typical Mustang rust repair, where the entire rear panel was just a big, it's Indiana weather, or winters, salt, whatnot. They even try to repair inside the wheel wells. So what we figured we'd do, and I'll try to as part of this, lift the car up on one side and give you an idea of what that looks like on the underside. This is very interesting. You learn so much when you're actually doing that, about where the damage really is, especially after a good acid bath. You just get to see everything. Now the damage I was talking about, or the work we had to do, of course, there's the floor pans on the passenger side. Again, all of that's going to be replaced. Those were still original when that repair was done. The tranny tunnel looks great all the way up and down, especially around the seatbelt mounts. But even this pan is in really good shape. The problem is that we've got the seat pan, or the seat pedestal, is starting to be eaten away. And you can see the frame rail is going to have to be replaced. The seat support rails. That's the inside of the torque box. It's got to be redone. Going to have to do some work here. This front end of the jam. Maybe a little bit here. We've got a hole there as well. It's amazing when they did the dip. What normally feels just like cray paper, severely rusted area, solidifies because it's rust conversion as well. And even some of these places look like Swiss cheese, feel so much more solid than they did prior to a dip. And if there's another good reason for that, for wanting to go through a chemical dip like that, do it. All right. We've got the same thing happening on this side. Well, very similar on this side. You can see it down here where they've repaired the wheel arch, and they really had to go above and beyond to try to repair the inner as well. Again, the outer wheel well on these we're going to replace because of this sort of thing. The inner wheel wells, we can patch that. I'm not concerned about that at all. But because of this and some of the issues we've got going on underneath the lip, we're going to repair it or replace it as well. Now, not fun, but fun fact. This is really the only body damage that this car has had in its life outside of that minor dent up in the front fender, and that was right along this area here. You can see how it's been worked 40 years ago. Not very good. They had to fake the body line between the fender extension and the fender itself. I was not happy to see that, but it is what it is. So I'm thinking, because it's just real wavy in this area, I'm thinking since we've got problems down here from the old rust repair, which is really horrid. I mean, this thing had to be a Bondo factory when it got it done. That we're just going to replace most of this fender. Other than that, trunk area looks fantastic. There's a couple repairs over there that we're going to address. The rear panel, good shape. That was actually replaced back in the day. It did have a lot of rust, man. I tell you, the salt back in the day was just corrosive as all get out. That's primarily it. And I know it seems like a lot, but it's not going to be that bad. I tell you what I'll do is, since most people don't get to see the underside of one of these things, I'm going to show you what I thought was one of the worst things. Now, it's all part of the repair, but it was one of the worst things I've seen any body shop do. You think the inner floor pan was bad, wait till you see the underside of it. Okay, let's take a look at the bottom of this thing. Remember what I was talking about? The repair on that? Right there she is. We haven't welded the outside of this just yet. When we do, grind it down, you'll never even know there was repair there. Be as solid as the original sheet metal. Cross member looks good. Not worried about that. This is the area I was talking about on the bottom of the torque box, where not only are we going to have to repair or replace the torque box and the floor support rail, but we're also going to have to repair the frame itself. Just right here. This is as solid as you ever want to see. I love that. We get to see the original floor pan, of which now I'm noticing of a few more fixes right here, here, and here. It's like all they had was a bunch of, I don't know what that is, 22 gauge. I mean, it's real thin, that they just decided to slap in there. Good shot of the inner side of the torque box. He's not concerned with that because we get to cut out a lot as we repair this. The other side is really no different. You can see some delamination here between the frame and the seat support. I'm sure when we take this off, we'll have some framework to do. But this is solid as you ever want it to be. And there's some of that Swiss cheese that I was talking about on the floor pan. No problem. Floor pans are gone. This is a WTF. Behind this big stupid piece of sheet metal are the original floor pans. Surely they're rusted through. Swiss cheese. What did they decide to do? Not only did they cap them on the inside, but they capped them on the bottom side too. This completely, we missed this entirely. But it is what it is. It all gets to go. They're going to be those beautiful black floor pans before you know it. All right, so the cross member is in fantastic shape. No problems with that. Look at those rockers. Remember what I was talking about? This is where the Mach 1 panels go on. Those things are just beautiful. Just beautiful. Look at that. It's a train shot. Spring mounts are great. Frame rails look fantastic. Try to give you a good shot of that. Here's the inner and outer wheel wells. You can see all the garbage we've got going on in this area. I mean, it's just horrid, which is why we're going to replace this outer wheel house. The inner wheel house is good, except for this point here, but I am not worried about finding anything unrepairable behind there. I've got just a little chunk here. There is that area I was telling you about before, where it was a, I think it was a fuel line mount, but don't quote me on that. The aprons underneath the fenders, I'm going to replace those as well while we're working on the fenders. The fender itself, in the effort to keep as much sheet metal as we possibly can, will probably only be repaired where it needs repair. Because all this up here is really good. This is wavy, and some of that could be knocked out, but I think we're going to replace most of this, especially down when we come to this pinch weld. This pinch weld is in horrible shape. Plus, it's part of that inner trunk structure that we're going to replace as well. All right, let's head up to what is arguably the most frightening, or the piece that we're most concerned about, and that would be the windshield frame. Try to give you a good look at it. You see some of the damage right in here, where it's a critical area, and it's going to be a little difficult to repair. But we also have a bit of Mustang damage down at the lower end of the A pillar, where it meets with the cowl panels actually. That's a point that I'm a little bit concerned about. We also have some along the roof right in here. See, those are actually open holes into the superstructure. We got it the same way with the driver's side. You see the pitting along the A pillar, and some more damage there at the top of the cowl. Well, fortunately for us, we knew about this 10 years ago when we first took this car apart. The idea was we were going to restore it then, and ran out of time or money. And what we found was a junkyard buried in the woods. Never even knew it was there. But fortunately, finding that junkyard allows us to find about 4 or 5 different Mustangs that were way beyond repair. However, we found a full roof. You can see the A-pillar sticking up behind the hood and the fenders of the Mustang. See it? We found a full roof. So we took that entire roof, paid next to nothing for it, and it has every piece that we'll need to repair those areas that I just talked about outside of the cowl. We didn't get any of the cowl, as you can see. Those are the cowl mount points where it mounts to the A-pillar. A whole nother video could be done on the fenders. I can show you the 2 spots that we're concerned about on the fenders themselves. The passenger side fender is in really decent shape. I mean, there's no rust damage. There's no real dents. It's really smooth. You can see some of it here. Where it hits the front fender extensions, it's all good. The hood is in perfect condition. Now it was stripped as well as these. We've got a nice nasty spot right up here at the top that we're going to completely repair. We've got another one down here. I don't even know. This is the driver's side. This is not where it was involved in the accident there at the parking lot. But here's another spot that we'll have to repair. Is what it is. I mean, it's more brazing, but hey, that's what they did. Let me show you the doors. The doors we're going to have to reskin, and there's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll show you the biggest one. The inner portion of the door, the inner framework of the door is just fine, but you can see that they did yet another one of those nice giant braze repairs. The other door is no different. Actually, it's got a whole lot of dings in it. Looks like, in fact, I remember they had to replace that door back in the day, and they lost our ID plate, which really pisses me off to this day. So the driver's door, wherever they got it, had a big dent in it, and you can see some of the remnants of it here with the puller holes. I can't really get in there. I've got too much junk around it, but you can see them right here, the filler hole, the puller holes where they drill into it and yanked it out. No biggie. We're just going to reskin them. That way we get to have it open, make sure that the inner door frame is stellar, and we can also get sound deadening insulation in there in such a way that you wouldn't be able to do unless you had the doors apart. So I'm fine reskinning it. And I'm actually more fine reskinning it because the replacement door was just a bit too large. This way we get to adjust the gap from the door's perspective, make sure the doors are exactly the same, or they match the distance that we're likely to find on here. A-okay. So there you have it. There is a full tour of the Mustang. Hope you enjoyed it. We're going to continue to make these videos and publish them as we go along through this process. We're really excited to get further into the metalwork and get this girl back on the road. And so make sure that you follow or subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.